Hey everyone, this is Dave here.
And it's Tom.
So, we're looking at Modern Warfare Remastered, but this time it's on PS4 Pro and it's the 4K mode.
That's it, and there's no HDR support in this one. Obviously, we've got no ability to capture and show HDR, so that's a bit of a relief. But nevertheless, you do get the full 4K capture frame by frame that we got from our tools. And we have to say, I've not played this much, but you're the one who's taken the helm on this. Have you found it so far?
Well, it's pretty interesting. You know, I wasn't sure what to expect seeing Call of Duty running in sort of 1080p and then switching to 4K. Before pixel counting, you know, the image quality is, you know, rather impressive. It is a step up over the say if you're playing the game in 1080p on a 4K screen, then the 4K mode on the Pro definitely adds a much sharper image.
So there's no graphical improvements, it's just the resolution bump.
Yeah, I had a close look between the 4K footage and the 1080p version running on the PS4, and yeah, we're just looking at a resolution boost here. There's no other sort of extras, so shadow quality, textures, effects, that actually looks identical in like-for-like scenes.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think that's about what we expected from what Raven, the developer, were saying about what they were doing with this version. But the resolution is the sticking point here, because I had a look at the shots you gave me, and it appears to not be a native 4K. It's not using a dynamic resolution either. It's a fixed resolution at a number I picked on, 2880 by 1620. The way I worked that out was I took the full 4K frame buffer direct from the game, and when looking at edges, I found that, say, a 100 pixel sample across a line gave me 75 edges. So that was 75% resolution on the axis, which in the end came to 2880 by 1620. It's still a huge markup over 1080p, obviously, and in fact, it's higher than 1440p.
Yeah, it's from what I understand, it's 125% improvement over 1080p resolution.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty good going. We weren't necessarily sure what to expect, whether we were going to get a full native. And playing this, did you think it was native, or were you convinced?
Well, having seen sort of a native 4K in the form of like Resident Evil and Recall, it's not quite as sharp as those titles, but you know, I think it still holds up really well. One of the things I was, you know, kind of worried about was if we're seeing resolutions sort of around sort of 1440p-ish, that kind of thing, whether there'd be noticeable scaling artifacts, which is something I wanted to avoid. But, you know, seeing this from around, 8 to 10 feet away from a 58-inch, I don't see obvious scaling. You know, it might be a bit softer than a native 4K presentation, but any jaggies, which is, that was a good thing to me.
Yeah, we had a look at it on the 4K set together, and I was mostly convinced that it was giving me a far crisper image than the 1080p, but there were some obvious shortfalls there as well. The usual culprits, you get a sort of sub-pixel detail on fences and dangling cable lines, all these things. You can see a kind of the kind of shape of these things break up at a distance. And on top of that, there is a bit of the old pixel crawl on foliage and that sort of thing, very slight. But anything geometric just looks really pristine and crisp, and it's all kind of scaled up to 4K to support your TV. I was, to be honest, it's maybe not the best example I've seen of a PS4 Pro game giving, the best image quality I've seen. I think Titanfall 2 might take that because it's backed by temporal anti-aliasing. But still, it's a marked improvement over what we had originally on PS4. But I don't know about your opinions on this. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I definitely think it's an improvement, quite a noticeable improvement over running the game in 1080p. And I guess one of the things to consider is that, if, say, you already have a 4K screen, then, 1080p content will be upscaled. And the advantage of running this game in the 4K mode on the Pro is that you get a higher resolution, which means less scaling and better image quality.
But we did try running this game in the 1080p mode output to our 4K TV, expecting that it would downscale from this 1620p resolution, and then obviously the TV would then re-upscale it to 4K. And the results, it's fair to say, weren't that great, were they?
I mean, it looks pretty much like a sort of normal 1080p presentation. The only thing that I guess you could say that was different is that if you look on like subpixel details like fences, railings, that kind of thing, I noticed that when I compared the 1080p native captures from the original PlayStation 4 and then the downsampled 1080p captures from the PS4 Pro, I noticed that the 1080p image quality was a little bit better in the sense that those the shimmering fences and the detail on those fences was actually resolved to a higher standard when you play the Pro version or the game with the Pro update in 1080p on the Pro, because it was downsampling those extra details.
I see. So obviously we're all going to be looking at the 4K output from this machine, so it's a bit of a trivial thing, I guess, for people with 4K sets. But for those on 1080p sets still, I guess you'd still get a super sampled image, which is good. I'm happy about that. And in the face of a lack of any other upgrades here, you take it. What else do we have to say about this? It's the same game as we've remembered. The same game as from the standard PS4 release, really.
Yeah, one thing I did notice, though, is that the experience was a little bit smoother when I was playing on PS4 Pro in the 4K mode.
Okay, so this is all about frame rates now. So there's a big improvement?
It's not massive, no. I mean, say like one particular scene, I was fighting in a courtyard, there was a couple of big explosions. On the PS4, the normal console, frame rates dropped down to around 45 FPS. On the Pro, while on the Pro, we're looking at 53 FPS.
Okay, so it's a marginal bump, but it's still, a tangible gain, especially if you're close enough to 60 and you just need to bridge the gap. I honestly think it's a win-win from that perspective then. Better image quality, better frame rate, and it implies they maybe had a headroom if they wanted to, say, keep the frame rate exactly as it was on PS4, and then they could have potentially boosted the resolution even higher, or conversely, they could have gone the other way and just said, all right, we'll cap it at 1080p and smoothed over all those other frame rate drops completely.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I was kind of a bit worried at first, like if they went for the proper like native 4K resolution, would we get like a Black Ops 3 situation where performance in that game really wasn't that great? It went down to below 40 FPS at times, and I guess I kind of feel they've made the right choice. We might not be getting absolute native 4K, but we're getting a mostly 60 FPS experience, and we get a resolution boost over 1080p, and it's something that you can definitely see if you're viewing a 4K screen. So I think it's overall probably, the right decision to sort of tackle it this way, a bit of give and take.
Right. And I had a go at multiplayer as well, just briefly, really, but I hadn't noticed any drops on that side. So it's, I suppose for a lot of people, they have fond memories of the campaign, and then they move to the multiplayer where they spent, they got hooked and played it for hundreds of hours. And obviously there's nothing too taxing in terms of these set piece moments the campaign mode has, but it's nice to see it's a more or less permanent lock there. I haven't really experienced any problems on the Pro whatsoever yet. We'll update later if there are, of course. We'll be looking into as much as we can with the game. But for now, yeah, it's looking really solid, and I'm happy with, if I'm going to choose a way to play this, I suppose you put PC quite high on the list, but then there's the PS4 Pro experience here is a great way to go on console. It's the best console experience so far.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things to consider as well, if you're sort of on PC and you want to target 4K, then usually that requires spending quite a lot of money on some high-end graphics cards, or even the mid-range ones can cost almost as much as like a PS4 Pro anyway. So to get like an experience that's reasonably similar, you're not get exactly the same native resolution, but
it's cost effective.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect, whether or not some of the compromising resolutions say we're not getting exact 4K, whether that would work for a console and deliver, like a pseudo 4K experience instead of what you get on the PC. But overall, I think generally for the money, it's a nice upgrade. And it kind of surprised me to see, how well it actually holds up, especially seeing it at, 60 frames per second. So, yeah, I guess it is a good alternative if you want to have a kind of 4K-like experience without, having to blow a huge amount of your budget to do it.
Cool. Well, shall we leave it there?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So we'll have more coverage of Modern Warfare Remastered, frame rate tests and comparison. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video and you found it useful, then remember to give us a like. And of course, subscribing really help us out as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.